All right, so I recently did a new batch of ice dye hoodies and some just socks and stuff. And then I also did something a little bit different. I've done this before, but had some more fun, like I guess using more colors for it. But this is a bleach dye that I did an ice dye on afterwards. So wanted to show you guys kind of the results, but I wanted to show you guys the process for those that want to do this themselves. A lot of people ask me if I'm going to start selling this stuff, but really I haven't figured out how I would be able to do that. It's too much work, to be honest. And I like doing these videos to teach you guys how to do it yourselves. It's not overly difficult, but there's a couple things that I've learned along the way from my first videos to now. So stay tuned and let's go ahead and get into the process. What is going on, guys? Hess here, CollectiveKicks.com. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys like sneakers, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell as well if you guys are down there. And also, if you guys like this video, hit the like button. Also, there's a lot of instructions for you guys, but I'm going to have more instructions for you guys too, because there's a lot of them to follow in this video to be able to create some of this stuff. So there's two different things that I'm doing. There's the tie-dye, and then there's also the reverse tie-dye, I guess, if you're going to call it. But this is done in an ice dye technique, and this is done with a reverse tie-dye. I guess it's a bleach technique first. So there's some things to learn about both of these. I was able to do some socks as well as some hoodies in the backdrop, as you could see. So depending on what you're wanting the item to look like, if you're wanting it to have a like spiral shape, you got to do a spiral technique. This one I didn't do that, so you could see it's a little bit different. But yeah, there's lots of different ways to do this type of stuff. And there's no real wrong way. It's just depending on what you're into and what you're trying to figure out how to do. The spirals, again, you have to start in the middle and create a spiral and then literally spin the product and make sure that it's in a nice little spiral shape when you're compacting it. That's the most critical part about the whole entire thing, and it will definitely determine the results based on how well you do your spiral. So take your time on that if you want a really good spiral. If you don't care and you just want it kind of like this, you just bunch it together and then sprinkle the colors on all over the place, and then you can do something like this pretty easily as well. So there's a lot of instructions on how to do all this stuff. I'm going to start off first with just the ice dye techniques, and then towards the later part of the video I'll do the bleach dye, because there's obviously some different steps in there. There's a couple tips that I learned, very important to make it so the colors don't bleach out, because obviously if you're bleaching it and then you're adding color, the bleach obviously counteracts the color, so there's some steps that you can do to mitigate that. But first, let's talk about ice dye and how to take something that's white and turn it kind of colorful like this, or like this one as well. Really like the way that this one came out. My wife did a great job on the colors. I did the pinwheel effect, and I'll get into that in just a second. So first things first, you start off with a cotton item, whatever it is. It should be cotton, 100% cotton ideally. That hoodie back there is actually not cotton. It's actually rayon and nylon and a little bit of spandex, but it worked really well. You can't use polyester from what I understand though. Polyester won't work. So 100% cotton if you can. White items, you need to get some soda ash. And again, this and the other things will be linked in the description. But soda ash, and you basically add some of this to some hot water or some warm water and let your item soak in there for about 20 minutes. Now I use a mop bucket, but you can use pretty much anything. I do recommend a mop bucket though, because you can actually wring it out as well, which is super helpful because it is a lot of effort to wring out a bunch of big hoodies. They weigh a ton when they're super wet. Obviously, you guys probably know that from doing the laundry, if you guys do the laundry. But basically, mop bucket, again, linked in the description. I bought mine from Amazon for like, I think $35 or $50. Definitely something to invest in if you're going to be doing more than like a dozen of these things. So next step, you wring out your items the best that you can. You put them on a table with a clear space, preferably not by the dye that you're going to be using in the future, especially the powder dye. If you put the powder dye down, it will just explode with color on the wet items. But at this point, you're going to go ahead and wrap your items in rubber bands. Now, you can do a couple different techniques. If you want to have a spiral effect like this, you basically pinch in the middle where your spiral you want to be and start, and then you just twist. And you twist and you keep twisting, and then you flap your arms around and your hoodie around, and then you basically make a circle with a spiral shape, and then you use rubber bands to go around the entire thing. As many as you can, really. I mean, you probably don't need more than like 7 or 8, but you want to put the rubber bands all the way around, and also you want the folds that you're making the spiral to try to stand out. So if they kind of get smushed together and make a big lump, you try to make it so they have the folds in there the best that you can. It takes practice to do so, but honestly, I was really impressed with the results of this one. I did a pretty good job on this one, and it worked out well. So the spiral is definitely really nice, and then you make it really tight. Then once you have all of your items dressed and ready to go with the rubber bands on it, you want to take these items and put them on a rack of some sort. Now I use like a cookie sheet rack or something like that. And now you need to be able to take this and put it on top of like a bucket or a container. I use these bus bins. They're amazing. I use them only for ice dye, which is the thing that I would recommend, using something that you're only going to use for tie-dye because you don't want to ruin other people's stuff. And then you put the items on top. That way when you put the ice on and the dye on these items, it will melt and fall through the rack, and then you'll have a big puddle of liquid that's just a big murky mess. So once you get your items on your racks with the rubber bands around it, there's a couple different approaches you can take. Now I took some buckets, cut them up, and then actually use those. You can use cardboard and tape it around. That's the easiest thing to do. Or buckets or something like that, where you can contain the ice on top. When it melts, it just falls off the sides, and then you have a bunch of powder left over. So it's the easiest way to get the most maximum effect of the ice. Once you get that done, kind of a crucial step that I never really mentioned, you need to label your stuff. I would highly recommend you labeling what item goes where. If there's a small hoodie here and a large hoodie here, or Johnny's hoodie over here and Cindy's hoodie over here, make sure you have them labeled, because the thing is once you put the ice on top of it, everything looks the same. You're not going to be able to tell the difference between which of the items that you're dyeing. I made that mistake before. I tried to do a Carrots shirt orange and green, and I did a different shirt, orange and green instead, because I didn't label which one was a freaking carrot shirt. So label your items. It will let you know for sure what is what, and I highly recommend you doing that before you put the ice on. But the very next step after you label it, put the ice on over top of it. So the step after that, though, is to pick your colors of dye that you want to have to put on your items. This type of dye that I use is actually really good. It comes in the containers and is made specifically for these type of projects, so I know it works well. But now if you don't know your color wheel, look up color wheels on Google before you start like mixing and mashing colors together, because if you don't do that, they don't turn out very well. In fact, I have an example of that too, which it pains me to show you, because this was one of those projects that I was so excited to do, and they turned out like crap. Look at how bad these came out. So this is a pair of not cheap pants. These are Stone Island sweats that I got that I wanted to do an ice dye project on, and they turned out just terrible. I mean, just so weird colors. I didn't mean to do these colors. Actually, I meant to do the same colors kind of as my wife did, the grays and the pinks. Didn't happen. Totally didn't happen. I hit a purple and orange and green in there, and it definitely came through purple, orange, and green in the worst way possible. Don't like the way that this came out at all. But purple is a secondary color, orange is a secondary color, green is a secondary color, and when you mix secondary colors together, they turn brown. So keep that in mind. Yeah, I mean, not cool. Not cool at all, man. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to wear those, but that was like $150 or so down the drain. And that's a used price, but it pains me. This one I did kind of the pinwheel effect from the middle, a little bit at least, and you could see it turned out pretty good. I actually really like the way this one came out, and I wanted to do that Ben & Jerry's sort of vibe here with the primaries on it. Think about the color combinations before you put them on. Also, less is more. You really don't need a ton of dye on this stuff. I use a spoon, like plastic spoons, and shake it on, but it honestly clumps too much and it's a waste of dye. And then you let the ice do its work, and the dye will actually melt through the ice, and then it will just find its way on the clothes, and it makes just crazy shapes and colors and stuff like that. If you do not flip the hoodie and do the other side, like I didn't on this one, I just added more ice on the same side since I added too much dye on it and I could see little clumps. I put more ice on top and let the ice melt back through again, so it would just penetrate deeper down. But you could see there were some areas where I missed. This was all on the backside, and you can see it's all white still, which I honestly like. I like the fact that there's some whites mixed in as well. So this one, I just added more ice the second time instead of flipping the item. But if you want the item to have like more colorful effect, you want to be able to flip the item and then apply the dye on the other side as well, which means you have to know which colors you used on the front and replicate those colors on the back as well. For this one, I just added more ice as well. I didn't flip it, even though I kind of feel like I should have. It would have been more like vibrant if I did so, but it is what it is. I'm happy with the results nonetheless. It was just more of a lazy thing to flipping it and then trying to remember which colors I used and where. And I know I'm talking a lot about hoodies, and socks are pretty much the same way. You scrunch them up, you throw the dye on. You don't have to flip these things because they're so small. But if you guys want to see like a detailed like video just on socks, like I can do that, just drop a comment and let me know, because it's pretty simple and really fun to create your own stuff. Now you wait overnight. 24 hours would be ideal after the ice melts. Now's the next part where you have to rinse this stuff out. Now, if I didn't say so earlier, you have to wear gloves when you're dealing with the dye, and you want to get this stuff as clear as possible. If you're using blues and reds, it takes forever to rinse out. You want to rinse it out the best you can. And you don't have to get everything out. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect because you're now going to throw it in the washing machine and it's going to do the rest of the stuff. One of the questions that I'm sure you guys are wondering, can you mix it with colors and stuff like that? Like if you have a light something color or a dark color, can you mix them all in one wash? And originally I would have said no, but yes, you can. You have to use this Cyprethol or whatever. I don't even know the name of it. I'll link it in the description. It's a specific type of detergent. It's a specific type of detergent that helps you hold the colors in the items that you have. So I had some things like socks that had a little bit of white on them, yellows, reds, blues, and the blacks as well, all in one wash. And I washed it all up and it worked out well. Again, I bought that soap on Amazon for like 20 bucks and it lasts me quite a few loads. And I only use it obviously for tie-dye. You gotta wash your stuff on hot. You can do a quick cycle, but make sure it's on hot. Then throw it in the dryer. They also have these color stay sheets for the dryer that helps absorb the color for that. And for the most part, everything stays put, but I would definitely not recommend washing a white item with your tie-dye stuff because it will probably leave a little bit of a dingy hue on whatever your white item is. But use the color stay strips in the dryer and then dry your stuff up on hot, and then after that you're good to go. The stuff comes out well and it comes out wearable and it doesn't fade on your hands or anything like that, and your stuff is like ready to be worn and used. So that's pretty much the steps for the ice dye stuff. Now transitioning over, and I know this video is going to be long, hopefully you guys don't mind me doing this all in one video, but hey, we're doing it, right? To do this stuff, which was crazy and fun to do, this is the bleach dye, and it's the same technique, the pinwheel sort of thing in the middle, but to make it look like this, there's a couple easy steps to follow. First things first, I didn't wet the items before I put the bleach on them. Some people recommend it wet. I didn't do it that way. I did it dry. And basically you pause, but then basically you take your rubber bands, and I did the twirl technique with the items. It's probably easier to do the twirl with the items that are wet, to be honest, but you twirl and then you get your shape and your color that you want. If you don't want to twirl, you can do the scrunch technique, and I've done that on a lot of them in the past as well. Once you get the rubber bands all the way around your item, put them on the same sort of layout as the other stuff. Once you get your items in the rubber bands, you put it in the sun, hopefully if you have it outside, and then you spray it with bleach. I did like probably a 3/4 mixture of bleach to water, so I use a lot more bleach than water. But basically you just let the bleach do its thing, flip the item, spray the bleach, let it sit out there. I did it, honestly, I let these sit for maybe 15 or 20 minutes and then I pulled it out. You can do more or less time, just look at your item and kind of judge. And it's not going to turn it completely white. It's going to be like a reddish color or whatever the base color was of the hoodie. Sometimes it's different than white and red. Now there's a couple different steps here after that, because if you like the way the bleach looks without wanting to put any color on it, you can totally rock it like that. Now, if you want to do an ice dye effect, which honestly I did that to this, wasn't worth doing it because you can't see the marbling and stuff that the ice dye allows. The best thing to do is just get regular tie dye in the bottles and the squeeze bottles and squeeze the colors on where you want it. That's what I've done in the past. That's what I would recommend you doing for the hoodies. I used, again, the primary colors and just mixed the colors together. That's what I would redo, and actually I could probably touch this up and add more color to the white areas or the areas that look just bleached, because I didn't get as much color as I wanted to from here. So that's my recommendation. In order to do that though, you need to be able to neutralize the bleach in the item. So the next step would be to take the item and put it in peroxide water. And I just poured a bottle of peroxide into water, and then I put the items in the water and let it soak in there for 20 minutes. The next step after that would be to rinse out your items and then put it in your soda ash again. Similar to the ice dye, you want to put this in soda ash because the colors will stick to the bleach better. If you don't do these steps and you go right from bleach to dye, it doesn't work. The color won't actually stay after you wash it. Depending on how much black you want on the item versus, you have to make sure that the bleach goes through, because I didn't do the folds very well on the back and it didn't actually go through all the way. So that's kind of my bad way I bleached it, but it's turned out okay in my opinion still. But to do the colors though, my recommendation would just be to get the tie-dye bottles. You can get them at Walmart, or I'll again link them in the description, but it's just a tie-dye kit. Or if you use the same dyes as the ice dye, you just get the little bottles and with the lids on them and the squirter lid or whatever, and then you mix the powder in there with water. Then you squirt the item with the colors on them. Now, that's the easiest way to get the colors exactly where you want on the bleached sections. Really easy to do. I would recommend doing it that way. This way was a little bit more of a pain and took too long. But once you get done putting the dye on the items that you want, then you still have to leave the items outside, let it sit overnight, because the dye needs to go ahead and set in the item. So that's what I would recommend you doing, and then you'll get more color. This one didn't get as much color as I want. I might actually add more tie-dye colors to this next time I do a tie-dye round. Then once it's done sitting overnight, then you treat it the same as the regular ice dye stuff. You rinse it out, you use the special detergent, then you use the dryer sheet in the dryer, and you're good to go after that. And that's kind of the journey, man. It was a fun process to go through both of these sets. I made some pants that I didn't like with terrible color combinations. I made a bunch of socks, and it was just fun to be able to create. You know, I do these videos just because it's exciting to share with you guys. I like to be able to share some of the projects with you guys, and I'd love to be able to create some of these for a more mainstream reason if I could actually sell some of this stuff. I just don't have the time to actually make that happen yet. So these videos hopefully will help you guys be able to create your own. Yeah, if you guys do create your own, always tag me on Instagram or Twitter. I always love to see what you guys create. But again, if you guys need any of the products that I talk about in this video, check the links in the description. I'll have hopefully a full list of all the products that you guys can use. And I have a lot of fun doing this, so hopefully I'll do another round again soon. I got a bunch of other stuff to do. I have another jean jacket and just some other random things, more hoodies and stuff. But really like this, and big shout out to Pharrell and Adidas for sending this crazy set over. I really like the pants and the hoodie and stuff. But that's the video. Thank you again for watching. Hopefully we'll see you guys back for some more videos. Peace, guys.